I worked for 15 years to give him everything he wanted. I gave up a career I loved to support his. I raised his children while he rebuilt himself. And when his ex-wife called at midnight on our anniversary, he answered. Then he looked me in the eye and said, "She's part of my life. That's not changing." I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just stopped talking. And 6 months later, he realized I wasn't coming back. My name is Elena. I was 34 when I met David. He was 41, recently divorced, and drowning. 2 kids under 10, a business he'd barely kept during the separation, and an ex-wife who called him like he was still her husband. I didn't see red flags. I saw a man who needed someone steady. Someone loyal. Someone who would stay. I stayed for 11 years. We met at a networking event in Portland. I was a senior marketing consultant at a firm I'd helped build from the ground up. David ran a logistics company that was bleeding clients because he couldn't focus. His divorce had been brutal. His ex, Monica, had left him for someone else, then changed her mind halfway through the custody battle and wanted him back. He refused. But he never really closed the door. I didn't know that then. Within a year, we were living together. Within 2, I was managing his household, his schedule, and his kids' lives while he got the business back on track. I told myself it was temporary. That once he stabilized, I'd go back to my career. But there was always one more crisis. One more reason I couldn't leave him to handle it alone. Monica called constantly. School emergencies. Insurance questions. Holiday logistics. And David always answered. Always. "She's their mother," he'd say. "I can't just ignore her." I understood that. I respected it, even. But it wasn't just about the kids. She called about her car. Her taxes. Her dating life. And he listened. He advised. He fixed things for her like they were still married. I brought it up once, carefully, after she'd called him during our vacation. "Do you think maybe she's using the kids as an excuse to stay close to you?" He looked at me like I'd insulted his children. "Elena, don't make this about jealousy. Monica and I have history. We share kids. That's not something you can just cut off." I never brought it up again. The kids were good kids. I loved them. But they were also weapons Monica knew how to use. Every visitation swap became a 40-minute conversation. Every school event became a reunion where I stood off to the side while David and Monica talked like I wasn't there. And when I tried to be involved, to be a presence in their lives, Monica would smile thinly and say things like, "Oh, that's sweet. But I think David and I should handle the big decisions." And David never corrected her. I gave up my job when his business nearly collapsed in year 4. He needed someone he could trust to run operations while he focused on sales. I told myself it was strategic. That I'd be building something with him. That we were a team. But my name was never on the paperwork. "It's just cleaner this way," he said. For liability reasons. I believed him. For 7 years, I worked 60-hour weeks keeping that company alive. I didn't take a salary, just a small draw when we needed it. I told myself we were investing in our future. That once we were stable, we'd make it official. Get married. Build something that was actually ours. But David never proposed. When I asked him about it, he'd get vague. "I don't need a piece of paper to prove I love you, Elena." But he had needed one with Monica. Our anniversary this year, 11 years together, I planned something small. Just dinner. I bought a bottle of wine we'd shared on our first trip together. I wore the dress he'd once said made me look like I belonged in a movie. We were halfway through the meal when her name lit up his phone. He glanced at it. then picked it up. I should take this. It was 11:47 p.m. I sat there, alone at the table, while he stepped outside. I could see him through the window, pacing, nodding, rubbing his temple the way he did when he was trying to solve someone else's problem. He came back 20 minutes later. Sorry. Monica's having car trouble. I told her I'd help her figure it out tomorrow. I didn't say anything. He sat down, picked up his fork, and kept eating like nothing had happened. That's when I knew. It wasn't about the kids. It wasn't about co-parenting. It was about control. She had decided, years ago, that David would always be available to her. And he had agreed. And I had built my entire life around making that easier for him. 3 days later, I asked him directly, "Do you see a future where Monica isn't the first person you think about when something goes wrong?" He looked genuinely confused. "Elena, she's the mother of my children. She's always going to be part of my life. That's not changing." I nodded. Okay. Okay? He seemed relieved. Like I'd finally accepted the terms. Yeah. Okay. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't explain what I meant. I just started moving differently. I stopped asking where he was going. I stopped managing his schedule. I stopped answering when Monica called the house phone looking for him. At first, he didn't notice. He was too busy. The business was growing, and I'd built systems that ran whether I was paying attention or not. He assumed I was fine. That okay had meant acceptance. It hadn't. It had meant, I'm done fighting for a place I was never going to get. I started quietly. I opened my own bank account and moved my small draw from the business into it. Not much, just enough to start. Then I reached out to my old network. The people I'd worked with before I became David's unpaid COO. I didn't tell them I was looking for a job. I just reconnected. Coffee meetings. LinkedIn messages. Casual catch-ups. One of them, a former colleague named Iris, had started her own firm. She'd been asking me for years if I wanted to consult. I'd always said no. This time, I said maybe. Maybe, she laughed. "Elena, I've been trying to poach you since 2019. What changed?" "I'm reconsidering my priorities." She didn't push. She just sent me a contract for a small project. Freelance. 20 hours. I could do it on my own time. I signed it that night. David didn't notice I was working on something else. He didn't notice when I started staying up after he went to bed, finishing deliverables on my laptop at the kitchen table. He didn't notice when I stopped cooking dinner 4 nights a week. He noticed when I stopped doing his laundry. "Hey, babe, do you know where my blue shirt is?" "No idea." "Did you check the hamper?" He blinked. "I thought you were doing laundry today." "I did mine." There was a pause. A confused, slightly irritated pause. "Okay. I'll just throw a load in later." He didn't. He waited until he ran out of clean clothes, then asked me again, like I'd forgotten. "Elena, can you just do a quick load? I've got meetings tomorrow." "I'm working." "Working on what?" "A project." He looked at my laptop like he'd never seen it before. "For the business?" "No. For a client." Another pause. Longer this time. "Since when do you have a client?" "Since 3 weeks ago." He laughed. Not meanly. Just dismissively. "Babe, you don't need to do freelance work. We're fine. You're fine. I need my own income." His face changed. What does that mean? It means I'm not on the payroll. I'm not on the deed. I'm not on anything. So I'm building my own foundation. He stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. Elena, everything I have is yours. You know that. Do I? Yes. We're a team. I closed my laptop. David, what's my official role in your company? You run operations. What's my title? Silence. What's my salary? You take draws whenever you need. What's my salary? He didn't answer. If we broke up tomorrow, what would I be entitled to? His jaw tightened. Why are you talking like this? I'm just asking. We're not breaking up. Then it shouldn't be hard to answer. He rubbed his face, frustrated. Elena, I don't know what's going on with you, but this isn't. His phone rang. Monica. He looked at it. Looked at me. I waited. He answered. I stood up, went to the bedroom, and closed the door. The next morning, I didn't make coffee for him. I made 1 cup for myself and left before he came downstairs. I spent the day working at a cafe, finishing Iris's project early. She loved it. She sent me 2 more. When I got home that night, David was waiting. We need to talk. Okay. I don't understand what's happening. You're acting like you're leaving. I haven't decided yet. His face went pale. What? I'm trying to figure out if there's a version of this where I'm actually your partner, or if I'm just the person who makes your life easier while Monica stays your priority. That's not fair. Isn't it? She's my kid's mother, Elena. I can't just cut her off. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to set a boundary. To make it clear that I'm your partner. That we come first. He looked at me like I was being unreasonable. I do put us first. You answered her call on our anniversary. It was an emergency. It was car trouble. She could have called AAA. She doesn't think like that. She calls me. Because you let her. He exhaled sharply, like I was exhausting him. What do you want me to do, Elena? I want you to choose me. Just once. I want you to tell her that unless it's about the kid's safety, she needs to handle her own problems. I want you to stop acting like her husband. I'm not acting like her husband. You're more available to her than you are to me. He shook his head. This is jealousy. You're jealous of a woman I divorced a decade ago. I smiled. Not warmly. No, David. I'm not jealous. I'm just done pretending this is a partnership. I walked past him, grabbed my keys, and left. I stayed at a hotel that night. He called 14 times. I didn't answer. The next day, I called a lawyer. Not to file anything. Just to ask questions. What I'd be entitled to if we split. What common law meant in Oregon. What happened to sweat equity when your name wasn't on anything? The answers weren't good. But they were clarifying. I'd spent 11 years building David's life. And legally, I owned none of it. So I stopped building it. I took on more clients. Iris introduced me to others. Within 6 weeks, I was making more than I ever had at the old firm. And I was doing it on my terms, from my laptop, in my own time. David noticed. You're never home anymore. I'm working. You're avoiding me. I'm building a career. You had a career. Here. With me. I looked at him. No, David. I had a job. You had a career. He didn't know what to say to that. Monica called the house phone on a Thursday afternoon. I was home, working on a campaign deck for a tech startup. David was at a site visit. The phone rang 4 times before I picked up. Elena? She sounded surprised. Like she'd expected voicemail. Hi, Monica. Oh. I was trying to reach David. He's not here. Do you know when he'll be back? No idea. There was a pause. She wasn't used to me being unhelpful. Can you have him call me? It's about Jake's college applications. Jake was 17. More than capable of managing his own college applications. You can text him, I said. I know, he usually picks up when I call. He's busy. Another pause. Longer. Is everything okay? I smiled to myself. Everything's fine. I'll let him know you called. I hung up. I didn't tell David she called. When he got home, he checked his phone, saw her text, and called her back immediately. I listened from the kitchen while he talked her through essay deadlines and campus tours like he was her guidance counselor. When he hung up, I was standing in the doorway. Why didn't you tell me Monica called the house? I forgot. He studied me. You forgot? Yeah. He didn't believe me. But he didn't push. That weekend, the kids came to stay. I'd always cooked for them, planned activities, made sure the house felt welcoming. This time, I didn't. I worked in the guest room while David handled everything. Grocery shopping. Dinner. Homework help. On Sunday, when Monica came to pick them up, she knocked on the door instead of texting from the driveway like usual. David let her in. I stayed upstairs. I heard them talking. Laughing. I heard her ask where I was. Working, David said. She's been really busy lately. That's good, Monica said. But her tone said otherwise. After she left, David came upstairs. That was kind of rude. I didn't look up from my laptop. What was? Not saying hi to Monica. She asked about you. I was working. You couldn't take 2 minutes? I closed my laptop and looked at him. David, I've taken 11 years of 2-minute interruptions. I'm done prioritizing her comfort. His face hardened. She's not asking you to prioritize her. She was just being polite. Was she polite when she told me I shouldn't weigh in on Jake's high school choice because I wasn't his real parent? He blinked. When did she say that? 3 years ago. At his birthday party. You were 10 feet away. He didn't remember. Of course he didn't. She probably didn't mean it like that. I stood up. I'm going out. Where? Does it matter? I left before he could answer. I met Iris for dinner that night. She'd become more than a client. She'd become a friend. The kind who didn't ask me to explain why I was suddenly available all the time. You look different, she said. Different how? Lighter. I thought about that. She was right. I did feel lighter. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long I'd forgotten it was there, and now that I'd set it down, I could finally breathe. I think I'm leaving him, I said. She didn't look surprised. What's stopping you? I don't know. Habit, maybe. Or the fear that I wasted 11 years. You didn't waste them. You learned something. What did I learn? That you're capable of building something from nothing. You did it for him. Now you're doing it for yourself. I nodded. She was right. When are you going to tell him? I don't know if I need to. I think he's starting to figure it out. He was. Over the next month, David started noticing all the things I'd stopped doing. The little invisible work that had kept his life frictionless. I stopped managing the kids' schedules. Stopped keeping track of Monica's requests. Stopped pretending I didn't mind when he dropped everything to solve her problems. And he started panicking. Elena, we need to talk. Okay. I feel like you're pulling away. I am. He looked stricken. Why? Because I can't be in a relationship where I'm always second. You're not second. David, you've spent 11 years treating Monica like she's still your wife and me like I'm staff. I'm tired. That's not true. Isn't it? Tell me one time you chose me over her. One time you told her no because it interfered with us. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. She's the mother of my kids, Elena. It's complicated. It's not complicated. You just don't want to set a boundary because it's easier to keep her happy than to protect me. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's true. He sat down heavily. What do you want me to do? I want you to prove I matter. How? Tell her you're not available anymore. Not for car trouble, not for taxes, not for advice about her dating life. Tell her that unless it's a true emergency involving the kids, she needs to figure it out herself. He looked horrified. I can't do that. Then I can't stay. Elena. I'm serious, David. I need to see that I'm your priority. Not her. Not the idea of keeping things smooth for the kids. Me. He stared at me for a long time. Then he said, I'll try. Not I will. Not you're right. I'll try. And I knew. 2 weeks later, Monica called during dinner. David looked at the phone. Looked at me. I waited. He answered. I stood up, took my plate to the sink, and walked upstairs. When he came up an hour later, I was packing. What are you doing? Leaving. Elena, stop. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. I didn't, she needed help with. I don't care what she needed, David. I needed you to keep your word. And you didn't. He grabbed my arm, not hard, but firm. Please. Don't do this. I pulled away. I already did. I stayed with Iris for 2 months while I found an apartment. David called every day. I answered once a week, just to let him know I was safe. He begged me to come back. Promised he'd change. Said he'd set boundaries. But I'd heard it before. 3 months after I left, I signed a lease on a small 1-bedroom in Northeast Portland. It was mine. Just mine. My name on the lease. My furniture. My rules. Iris offered me a partnership in her firm. I accepted. David sent flowers. Letters. Long emails about how he'd realized what he'd lost. I didn't respond. 6 months after I left, I ran into Monica at a coffee shop. She looked surprised to see me. Elena. Hi. Hi. I heard you and David. I'm sorry. I smiled. Don't be. She hesitated. He's been kind of a mess. I'm sure. He really loved you, you know. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I realized she actually believed that. That she thought love was enough. That it didn't matter how you treated someone as long as you loved them. Maybe, I said. But love without respect isn't enough. I left before she could respond. A year later, David got engaged. To someone new. Someone younger. I heard through mutual friends that Monica had been upset about it. That she'd called him, crying, saying she didn't understand how he could move on so fast. And apparently, he'd finally told her no. Too late for me. But at least he'd learned. I didn't feel triumphant when I heard. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt free. Because I'd learned something too. I'd learned that I didn't need someone to choose me. I needed to choose myself. I'd spent 11 years waiting for David to see my value. To protect me. To fight for me. And the whole time, I'd had the power to do that myself. I built a career I loved. I bought my own condo. I traveled alone and didn't feel lonely. I stopped performing for people who would never appreciate it. And I slept better than I had in a decade. Some people think revenge is about making the other person suffer. But the best revenge is just living well without them. David didn't lose me because I destroyed him. He lost me because I realized I didn't need him. And that was something he could never undo.